Greetings, esteemed viewers. Welcome to today's episode of Our Noble Lineage. While the ideals that have become known as Eastern thought have only become popular in Western culture within the past 2 centuries, many individuals, once introduced to this inner view of perceiving the divine, almost immediately embrace it. One example is Stephen Knapp, whose own experience and insight has inspired many to search within themselves for deeper answers.
Where do we fit into this world? What's the purpose of this life? What are we supposed to do?
Recently, Supreme Master Television was granted an interview with this shining example of the integration between East and West. Please join us for the second part of our feature, Simplifying the Complex. Author Stephen Knapp explains the sacred Hindu texts. Author and philosopher Stephen Knapp has dedicated his life working to ensure that the spiritual texts of the East are understandable to Western students. Through studying and practicing Vedic teachings for over 40 years, he has written over 30 books in an effort to promote and preserve this vast spiritual knowledge. In 2009 alone, he was invited to give 90 lectures at 76 universities and has spoken to gatherings as large as 25,000 people. At the 17th Telugu Association of North America Conference in 2009, Mr. Knapp received an award for significant contributions to spirituality and Hinduism.
Hinduism just is another name for the Vedic culture. The Sanskrit, it's more accurately called Sanatana Dharma, or the eternal duty, the eternal nature of who we are as spiritual beings, and the eternal duty of this human life, which is to find and realize that spiritual nature within us. That's why it's called Sanatana Dharma. Hinduism is basically a geographical term. It's like an umbrella term where all these things come under one name. So many different paths within that system. And it's said that the Arabs came in and they named those people that lived near the Sindhu River as Hindus.
As with many that begin walking along the path that leads to the realization of the God within, Stephen discovered that a key element in the journey was the development of compassion by embracing the vegetarian diet, which is a major facet of the Vedas.
Vegetarianism definitely elevates consciousness, but you're more aware of what you're doing and what you're not doing. You're not causing as much pain and suffering to others. But you're also more aware of what you put into you, because what you put into you also makes a difference of your own consciousness. If you're eating parts of an animal that has been killed through a very painful process, that pain and suffering goes into it saturates their whole body. And then when you eat part of that body, then obviously that consciousness goes into you. And it makes a difference. I mean, why is it that the police, when they see a serial killer, or then when they catch a serial killer, why do they ask, well, what was he like as a child? Did he have a history of torturing animals or things like that? Because when you do that, when you torture animals or when you have little concern for the pain and suffering of others, they're not spiritually aware, they're not developed in their consciousness, they have a low regard for other living entities, and so all kinds of horrible actions can come out of that person at certain times. When you're raised with a higher consciousness, it's natural not to cause that kind of harm to other living entities.
Many sacred Hindu scriptures address vegetarianism and not taking the life of another.
What is virtuous conduct? It is never destroying life, for killing leads to every other sin. Tirukuru. No man is more debased than the man who wishes to increase his flesh by eating the flesh of other creatures. He is hard-hearted to the core. Mahabharat Anusasanika Parava. Those who for their personal pleasure take the life of harmless creatures do not attain happiness in this life or in the life hereafter. In view of the method through which flesh is acquired, and considering the suffering to creatures in fastening with cord and killing them, man should give up meat eating of all sorts. Manusimirti.
In a 2008 interview with Ms. Katerina Trontelli of Ona and Ora magazines in Slovenia, Supreme Master Ching Hai discussed why vegetarianism is important to our spiritual development.
Even if animals eating is not a sin, even if it's not, for the sake of compassion, we should stop eating them and torturing them for any reason at all. Even if eating animal doesn't harm our environment or our health, we should stop it because for love, protection of the weak and the helpless. Why do we have to kill a little thing like that to eat? Huh? And they have children, they have feeling even. That's the thing about awakening. You will be more human. You will know everything. That's why you love everything.
Stephen Knapp devotes a significant part of his writings to vegetarianism. Within the texts, he discusses prominent religious figures, including Master Jesus Christ and James the Just, who embraced the kind, animal-free diet.
Anybody can get the details of this in the articles that you can find on my website on vegetarianism. In fact, I have a whole page by itself of vegetarian resources. Not just other websites, but also online cookbooks that you can download to begin the vegetarian process right away. Articles on the advantage of it, both materially and spiritually. Quotes from other people, noteworthy people that are also vegetarian and also encourage vegetarianism. If you search, you can even find where Muhammad himself in Islam encouraged vegetarianism. He also said, at least from the research I've done, that for those followers that eat meat, before you pray to God, at least wash your mouth out. So these kind of things encourage vegetarianism from other religions. In Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says that if one offers me with love a leaf, flower, fruit, water, I will accept it. In other words, he doesn't need it. He has no form that requires food, but he has a spiritual form. But if you offer it with love, then he will accept it. You know, leaves means vegetables, the flowers means the fruits, the water, all these things, that will help us. Just like you've heard about that doctor who has found that if you say prayers over water, the crystals change. So if you offer food to God that spiritually surcharges the food, then that is beyond mere vegetarianism. That means you're surcharging the food with spiritual energy, and you actually become more than just vegetarian.
When we return, we will conclude our interview with Stephen Knapp on our noble lineage. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back to our noble lineage here on Supreme Master Television. We have been listening to Stephen Knapp, spiritual seeker and writer, discuss his journey to self-realization through spiritual practice and the sharing of ideals with fellow truth searchers. We asked him to share his own journey of becoming a vegetarian.
I never liked meat, Whether it was something from a previous life or whatever, I never liked eating meat, but my mother expected me to eat it. So when I became 18 and had a voice of my own, I'd already been reading different, spiritual texts, and I came across what was called the Sri Ishu Upanishad. And that book especially mentioned the fact that you don't need to eat meat just to satisfy this little muscle in your mouth called the tongue, and then force so many other living entities to suffer through death and being slaughtered and skinned and all this stuff. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I told my mother from now on, I'm not eating any meat. That was back in 1972, actually. And so I've been a vegetarian ever since. I remember one time going to the doctor for something. He says, okay, now we're going to find out what that vegetarian diet's really doing to you. And he came back, the blood test, hey, he's a prime specimen, nothing wrong with him. So then that pretty much proved beyond a shadow of doubt, at least to my parents, that, being a vegetarian was not a problem. So, I advise everybody that it's not difficult, and you feel a lot better for it, too.
Among his many initiatives, Mr. Knapp founded the World Relief Network. We asked him about the organization and its relation to his writings on Hindu philosophy.
So one of the organizations that I've formed is called the World Relief Network. And basically, how that got started was back in 1986. Because what is the most important thing that I want to do? I want to relieve the pain and suffering of the world. And so then the World Relief Network would be a publisher for spreading genuine and deep spiritual knowledge by which everybody could best understand who and what they are, what they're meant to do, what's the purpose of life, how to accomplish that purpose, and things like that, and thus could relieve them of the confusion which often causes them to engage in misguided aims of life. So this deep spiritual knowledge was that kind of solution which I wanted to present to as many people that were interested through what was called the World Relief Network. So through that I've published a number of different books, and those books have been appreciated by many different people, often many times more than I even realize. My books continue to sell year after year, and so I'm very happy, though, that God's given me the opportunity to fulfill this purpose in the lives of many people, while at the same time I'm free enough to continue working in this way.
At the end of our interview with him, Stephen Knapp offered these encouraging parting words for our global viewers.
We have to know one thing, and that is how to share our spirituality with others. All we have to do is show by example our own spiritual progress and explain to others how that spiritual quest has benefited ourselves and how it can benefit others. And thus, as we gain influence, those of us that are spiritually inclined, we can also have a stronger effect as to the direction and the benefit that this planet can have for each and every one of us that live here. Be sure to become spiritually aware, become spiritually educated so that you can explain this to others, no matter what challenges we face. If we help each other, it makes it easier for everybody. And then we can all make strong progress in a happier, healthier, more spiritual life with a great future. The more positive we become, the more positive our future also becomes. And that's something that is not impossible. So if we all work together on that, there's no telling what can happen in our own future. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Krishna.
We would like to extend our most sincere gratitude to author and philosopher Stephen Knapp, who has allowed us to briefly share his voyage of inner discovery. May our beautiful world and her loving inhabitants be blessed by the insights and dedication that his life expresses. For more information on Stephen Knapp, please visit www.stephenknapp.com. Thank you for joining us today on Our Noble Lineage. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television for Between Master and Disciples. May your life be blessed with inner knowingness and boundless love for all beings.
For more details, please visit www.suprememastertv.com/NL.